This video was recorded live before a canned studio audience. It's Friday Night Movie Reviews, and here they are, Chris and Keith.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Keith.
I'm Chris.
And this is Friday Night Movie Reviews. Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight we're going to be reviewing a movie that we watched over the weekend, and it's not one that you are going to find in theaters. It's going to be one that you will find on a streaming service. And if you have
HBO
Max, then you'll be able to watch this movie. And this is one of our Halloween specials. The movie is called Salem's Lot. Now, if you're Stephen King fans and you've read the book, or if you have watched the miniseries that aired,
either the '79 one, which is probably the most famous one,
yeah,
and then they made one in the early 2000s with Rob Lowe.
Right. And so if you watched any of those, then you may want to watch this video to see what we think about this particular iteration of the movie. So this movie, to start out, just to give you a brief synopsis of what it is, of course, it's about a vampire and his caretaker that move into a small town called Jerusalem's Lot. And for short, they call it Salem's Lot. And just like in the book, if you're anywhere familiar with Salem's Lot, then we're not really giving anything away. What ends up happening is the vampire lord ends up coming out and more or less taking control of this little town and begins turning people into vampires. You have a guy who comes back. In his childhood, he moved away from the town because of a tragedy, and he ends up coming back. And it was played. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't know the guy's name, but it's played by the same guy who plays one of the brothers in another streaming movie that you can find on Paramount. I think it's Paramount Plus. Yeah, Paramount Plus, called Outer Range.
Yep, he's on there. Yep, and he plays the character Ben, same as the '79 miniseries. The same character, just for reference.
And it's so this movie is not one that you want the kids to watch. If you and your significant other want to sit and kind of snuggle up with a bucket of popcorn and some Pepsi, then hey, that's fine. Go ahead and do that. But you want to put the kids to bed for this one. It does have a lot. It's got a lot of jump scares in it. It has
the language.
It has language in it. It has violence in it. I mean, come on, people. It's a vampire movie, for crying out loud.
Yeah, with it being Stephen King on top of that,
right.
It's horror. Like, you know what you're getting into when you hit play on this movie. Unlike the miniseries that was made for TV, this one could go all out there with the violence and the language, and they sure do.
Right.
At times, it especially will take you back. It's like, okay, I wasn't ready for that. But if you've read Stephen King, this is going to be more in line with how he writes his novels that have the language in it. The '79 one is more tame in comparison.
Because they put that one on television.
Yep.
So this is not a directly made for TV movie. It's made for streaming, and they went all out with it as far as that kind of thing goes. So it has the language in it, it has the violence in it, it's got the horror and terror elements in it. So you definitely don't want the kids sitting up and watching this one. I would even suggest not even letting unless it's like an older teenager, not even letting teenagers watch this one.
Yeah, if they're like high school age, because there wasn't really anything like adult situations really in this.
Right. None of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's mostly just language and violence. I would say probably if you're like 17, 18, you can watch this movie no problem.
Definitely. Yeah, because it's more of an R rating kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're worried about that aspect, there is no adult situations in it. There's one that was kind of implied, and they play it off for laughs, and we all laughed when we were watching it. So I mean, it was one of those kind of situations where it was going on, but if a kid was to say, they would be like, I don't get it.
Yeah, it would just fly over the head of a younger kid. But of course, you don't want younger kids watching this one because of the things we just talked about. So our thoughts on this one. This is going to be rather short because this movie's already been out there in several different forms anyway. But our thoughts on it. I personally liked this one. I'm gonna go out there and say that I probably liked this one better than anything they have done Salem's Lot wise from the start, because it's more modern. Now, when I say more modern, I mean more modern in the way that it's written, in the way that it's filmed, in the special effects.
Yep.
But it is not set in modern times, which is what I really liked about this movie.
Yeah, it's a period piece. It actually takes place in 1975, and the look and the feel of it, between the clothing, the cars, how the buildings look,
Right.
It all looks like straight out of the 70s.
The haircuts, I mean, everything looks like it's just, it looks like they just went in, pulled people out from the 70s and said, hey, we're going to make a movie, come and make this with us.
Yeah.
Because that's really, or that they took their equipment into the 70s and filmed it. That's exactly what it looks like. So there's no cell phones. There's none of that, none of the modern technology in it, which I thought really added to the element of the movie and added to the horror of the movie.
Yeah, that's what's made modern horror movies so hard to make now, because they have to find an excuse for cell phones not to work.
Right.
So this movie didn't fall into that trapping, because I remember you looked at me and goes, when is this movie taking place? Because we started to notice the cars, because even Keith's wife was like, wow, those cars are so pretty. They're so different. And I was like, oh, this movie, they just said it was 1975 on the radio. So I was like,
right. And I started noticing before they said that nobody was staring down at a cell phone.
They were all talking to each other, looking each other in the eyes.
Exactly.
Like, that's something you don't see anymore.
Right. So it was a period piece, and so I liked that aspect of it because, like I said, it added to the horror of the movie, because they couldn't just be somewhere and call somebody, hey, we're here, how are you doing, are you okay? It wasn't anything like that. You didn't have that element in this movie, so there was that suspense there. Hey, they don't know what's going on with these people over here, and they don't know what's going on with them over there. So it was really cool in that aspect to see it done that way.
Yeah, the special effects really brought out a lot of it. In the old ones, they would just show a cross and that would be it, and the vampire would back up. This one, the cross actually glowed a bright glow. I don't mean that you say that as a spoiler, but that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, was some of the special effects. And then you have like the revoking of vampires from homes after they've been invited in, how they did that with the special effects, which I thought was really neat. Yeah,
there were a lot of really cool elements that they put in it. They just modernized it, and I really liked that aspect. I felt like it was a lot scarier than the previous iterations of the movie.
Yeah, there were certain elements they did keep the same, like the glowing eyes in the contact lenses when they turn to a vampire. They kept that the same. The main vampire still looks the same as the 79 version.
Right.
So they tried to stay true to what you'd seen before, but modernize it, like you said, but with the special effects, and it really just added to it, because you're worried the whole time that a vampire was just going to come stroking down from the sky and just grab you and take you away. I mean, it was one of those things. Like, Keith's wife jumped a whole bunch of times. So we had a nice audience watching it, because, we wanted a more movie theater experience while watching a streaming movie. So a whole bunch of us were in there watching it together, and to have an audience reaction, and none of us had seen it. That's what really made it special. None of us, so we didn't know what was going to happen. And they do make this version different than the 79 one. Like, it doesn't end the same way. The whole last act of the movie is way different from the miniseries.
And some of the characterizations are a little different.
Yeah, they do change things, like the love interest, Ben's love interest. like her job, she actually works for the realty company, unlike in the 79 version where she was just a teacher in the 79 version. So they combine certain characters and it's more streamlined too. And I think that's the reason why this was a little bit more watchable, because, you know, when it was a made for TV movie, they kind of stretched it out for time. With this being condensed into a movie, you get more like a Cliff Notes version of Salem's Lot, where it just beat for beat moving, and there wasn't a lot of parts of the movie that dragged.
A lot of times I would say, you know, that's a detriment to a movie, is that you didn't spend enough time explaining this or that or the other. But as we all know, anybody who has read Stephen King novels, Stephen King can get a little wordy. And he can sometimes spend hundreds of pages explaining the contents of an ashtray that's not really needed.
Yep.
And
just give me back to the meat and potatoes of the story. That's what I want.
But this movie didn't do that. And this movie, where Chris was saying that, you know, the miniseries kind of dragged some things out, and it might have gotten a little long in the tooth. No pun intended. Maybe a little long in the tooth on that one. This one didn't really do that, and it condensed things together. And I think that added more of an edge to the movie, because it made the action and the horror elements faster, and not just faster, but compressed together, so it was like one after another.
Yeah, it didn't really give you a chance to like relax after the first attack,
right?
And then it just keeps coming at you,
right?
And you know, in a dangerous situation, that's like they try to give you that feel that the characters were going through at the time,
right?
And I have to say, like, we were right there, like, worried about, like, from the main little boy that's in it, because he's one of the main characters. You know, you're worried about all of them. We had
like the sun's going down. You're like, y'all better hurry up. Look, it's getting dark.
You know, just what you want from a horror movie, when you're telling the characters, no, don't do that. Go faster. You know, that kind of thing. Like,
don't go in there. Haven't you ever watched a movie before? Won't go in that room. You know, that kind of thing.
And that was the best part. That proved that this movie works. When you start talking to that screen, worried about them characters, that means they have done justice.
Right.
And that is to the point of the people who wrote this, the people who acted in it, from the directing, and I don't even know who directed this.
Oh yeah, the acting in this movie was just top notch.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
There were a lot of kids in this movie, and the kids in this movie did such a phenomenal job.
It felt natural. You know how
you were scared. You were actually terrified for these kids.
Oh yeah,
you were terrified for them,
because, you know, in a lot of movies, you know, the kids, they don't write kids that sound like kids. It comes off as very artificial. This felt like kids actually talking to one another, because they have like a bully on the playground type of situation at the beginning, and it felt natural. It didn't feel forced. And when these kids are scared of what's going on, it felt real. It felt really real. Like I was impressed.
And you're scared. You're scared because they're scared, and you're scared for them because you know something terrible could happen. And they don't really pull any punches in this movie, which is another reason why you don't want kids watching it, because they don't really pull any punches at all.
No, like the kids are in just as much danger as the adults are.
Exactly. So I really liked this movie. I liked the horror elements. I liked the pacing of it. I liked the acting in it. The music in it was just top notch. It fit, and it made the terrifying moments even more terrifying. And there weren't too many. I felt like this movie focused more on the element of horror, rather than depending on jump scares to make it scary.
Yeah, because if your movie's having to be dependent on jump scares, you have not done your job as a director and a writer and all that.
Right.
Like, it should not be dependent on that.
Right.
Yes, you can have a few in there, because that's become cliche horror movies.
Right.
My only real criticism for this movie is, Warner Brothers, why didn't you release this in theaters?
Right.
This movie didn't feel like a streaming movie when I was watching. I felt like it was very thematic.
What were you doing?
I just
there's no other horror. There are no other real, really Halloween type. This is Halloween month. It's October.
Literally, its only competition this weekend, if they had put it out, would have been Terrifier 3. And then this Friday is Smile 2 coming out. It could have easily fit into that space.
Not only easily fit into it, but if they had advertised it well, and had promoted it well, this could have easily blown those two movies out of the water.
Yeah, because it's Stephen King. I mean, he's the master of horror.
Right, and they could have labeled it as a Stephen King movie, and just, I mean, what were you thinking, Warner Brothers?
Yeah.
Why didn't you put it in theaters? Why did you alienate millions of people
that will not be able to watch
won't be able to watch it because they don't have HBO Max streaming service? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This was a great movie. I enjoyed this movie. This movie was great. What'd you think about it?
I like this movie. If we're gonna go to our ratings section, easily this movie, I wouldn't say it's like the best horror movie I've ever seen, but it's easily like an 8.5 for me.
Oh yeah,
8.5 Pepsi's easy for me.
Easy 8.5 popcorns. Easy 8.5 popcorns. And my wife is motioning to me that she would give it 7 bowls of rice. She's Chinese. She likes rice. So she gives it 7 bowls of rice. So this is a great movie, guys. I really enjoyed this movie. I liked it a lot. And I really don't have too many bad things to say about it, because it was the perfect length. It wasn't too long, right?
And it wasn't too fast either. Right. It is longer than like a traditional horror movie, because traditional horror movies were right around 80, 81 minutes, somewhere in there. This was the right length. I can't say it more. If you have an opportunity that somebody that has Max and you can watch it, go watch it with them.
Exactly.
I definitely promote this movie for sure.
Exactly.
Warner Brothers, if you're listening, I'm promoting your movie.
Yeah, and please, Warner Brothers, when you make something like this and you make it this good, put it in theaters, man.
Yeah.
Put it in theaters, because this could have easily blown Terrifier 3 and
Smile 2
out of the water easily. Now we haven't seen Smile 2 yet, so it's not really fair for us to say that.
Yeah.
But with the history that this movie has, with it being a Halloween themed movie in a Halloween themed month by the king of horror, I mean,
it would have made money.
It would have definitely done better than Terrifier 3 for sure.
Yeah, and this is the same studio that put out the 2 Pennywise movies,
right?
The 2 It movies,
Right. So listen, pack up your stuff. You put the kids to bed. Give them something to watch on a TV upstairs or whatever. Head down to your home theater if you got one, or your living room or whatever, and put this movie on and watch it, because this movie is definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So I give it easily 8.5 popcorns. Chris gives it easily 8.5 Pepsis, and my wife gives it 7 bowls of rice. So this is easily a really good Halloween type movie. In fact, if you want to save it for Halloween, this would be a perfect movie for Halloween.
To have it when kids are getting the candy.
Exactly. It's just that Halloween like. I don't understand what they were thinking whenever they didn't put it in theaters.
All right. Well, that's our time. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notification for when our next video drops. Leave us a comment. What did you think of Salem's Lot?
Right. And leave us a comment. Talk to us about it. We love talking to you guys and responding to your comments. Hey, like I said, watch the movie, enjoy it, because we know you will. Just make sure that you don't scream too loud and wake the kids up when you do. Y'all enjoy your movie. Have a good night.